Balls.
This is good
Balls.
enough, yeah. Okay, well then, yeah, so we're here over at Urban Animal, the downtown location, with Jordan and Mike, and Brian over there. And really what we're doing is just talking about beer today. And I'll ask you guys some questions that I wrote down, but obviously nothing too serious. So why don't you guys introduce yourselves and what do you do here?
I'm Mike, and I brew and clean stuff.
Brew and clean stuff.
I'm Jordan. I also brew and clean stuff.
Very cool. That's pretty much a brewer's job, right? To just brew and clean.
Mostly cleaning.
Yeah.
It's a lot of cleaning.
They don't tell you you're a glorified janitor.
I feel like I know that though from hanging out with Ben, because majority of what we're doing over there is just cleaning stuff.
Yeah. Well, especially with him too.
Yeah. He's like, hey, come over and help me clean some kegs. Like, you fucker. Because he hates doing that. Oh, my phone's over there. So the questions that I wrote down were technically on my phone, but it's filming this. But I wanted you guys to really kind of talk about, like, you know, how did you get here? You know, what was I know, obviously I know both of you, so kind of want you to, like, tell your story. I have questions about, like, particularly for you, but I'd like to hear about, you know, the journey to getting to Urban Animal and, you know, just kind of where you guys are at right now.
So you want to start and kind of just explain Urban Animal first, and then...
I mean, I think we kind of touched on that when we were talking before.
Yeah.
The other location, I think, with this new location, it was just an opportunity that came up with Red Swing wanting to get out of it, you know, not doing well.
Which was a bummer for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bummer that a lot of guys aren't doing well right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, the numbers made sense. We got into it for a deal that would have been unheard of during the heyday of, you know, the brewing industry, which we all know is kind of, we're not there anymore. But so far so good. I mean, we opened this up, what was the grand opening?
September.
In September.
Yeah, like 4 or 5 months.
It's still
4
pretty
months in.
new. Yeah, but things are going pretty well. We're moving a decent amount of product.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy, like the amount of product that we're moving is actually, you know, in years prior, we would be making a lot of money, but it's like you move all this product, and then because all the expenses are so much higher, you're looking at the bottom line, and it's like, man, what the heck? We're selling a ton of beer.
Yeah.
But you're just not making as much money. You know, and there's not a lot you can do. I mean, there's not a lot of tightening of the belt that we can do. You know, we're keeping things pretty lean.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess you could change your ingredients and change your recipes to make the beers, you know, more margin friendly, but then you're going to have an inferior product, and as soon as I have to do that, I'm going to just get out of the industry. So.
Yeah, Ben tells me how expensive it is all the time. I'm like, why do I know breweries, aren't they brewing imperial stouts and barley wines? And he's like, if you knew how much it cost to brew one of those beers, you know, because it's like, why is this $30 for a pint?
Right.
It's like, well, it's because that's what it costs, like, for us to actually make a buck on it, which is crazy.
And not even just like the ingredients and stuff. You got to take into fact like wages and all that stuff now too. So
Yeah.
all the time that guy's getting paid to brew this beer also adds into the, you know, the margins on that beer too.
Yeah.
So
Well,
it
tell
does have a
us
lot more time.
Tell us how you ended up at Urban Animal.
Me and Mike have been known each other for a long time. He actually started helping me when I was home brewing down in my father-in-law's basement.
There's the fridge, so just ignore that. If you guys can hear it.
But yeah, he started helping me in the basement when we were home brewing down there, and then once I opened up Batch, I'd always reach out to him for any kind of advice and stuff. Once they started getting this going, it was about the same time Batch was closing, so he kind of reached out and was like, hey, any chance you'd be interested in coming to help us out over here and, you know, kind of working in the brew house here at the downtown location. So, yeah, of course, man. Like, I'm definitely going to jump on that. So
The timing was perfect.
yeah, it worked out immaculately. I couldn't have asked for a better situation. So
Yeah, I remember back when you guys were putting some of Urban Animal beer on tap at Batch, kind of in between spots on tap, and then you guys had done a few collabs together. I remember you talked about going down and like brewing a hazy.
Yeah.
And so don't think anybody was super surprised, but it is still cool to hear, the direction that you took, because I was stoked to see you going to a brewery that was still friendly with adjuncts and the different
Yeah.
style of beers that you guys really like to brew, or what you were brewing over at Batch. So it even though we lost Batch, is like we still kept you and the funky stuff that you're doing, which blends perfectly with what you guys were already doing. And so like I felt like I was telling everybody, like, you guys would be like a powerhouse. And I think that the beer that you have on tap is probably the most unique in town so far, or maybe like right now. I was
I'd say
thinking about
right
it
now,
earlier.
yeah.
Like, not that many people are doing adjuncted stuff. Like, you've got like Metric, and then Ben over at Local Relic, but there's not too many people who are doing stuff that's actually got those flavors, like some of the popular Denver breweries and things like that. And that's what I like about you guys.
Yeah, I like the fact that we're able to blend, my weird and wild side, but also, I get to learn from him on how to do proper traditional beers, and just kind of playing off of each other's strengths.
Yeah.
I think it's starting to really create some pretty cool products.
Well, you take a lot off my shoulders. I don't have to think about the weird stuff. I let you do that, and then you come to me.
He's already got recipes like ready to go.
I mean, I don't know if
Thanksgiving
I've ever said
stuffing.
No. Have I said no to any
I don't think
of
we've
your
had a no
crazy
yet. No.
beers?
No.
I don't think you've done anything too crazy.
Yeah, definitely not doing, mac and cheese beer. That's gone.
Yeah.
That's a thing of the past. But, brought the pickle beer back.
The pickle, and you guys, that's been like blowing up too. So
Never would I ever would have thought that this pickle beer was going to be like talked about and have all these articles written. And
which is crazy, yeah.
me and him kind of like talked about it. It was like, we're really going to do a pickle beer. Okay, all right, let's do it. And then never thought it would sell like this at all.
Yeah, and everybody
So,
loves it.
yeah.
I still got to get Jazz to come try it.
Yeah, well,
soon
that's
here.
one you'll have to try before you leave today. That's for sure.
I'll try it.
It
It's
doesn't have to be a
certainly-
big one. You can do a little one.
It's
but-
not up my alley, but I'll try it. Everybody says it's really good.
Yeah.
The one I saw recently, I think it was like your winter beer that you guys tapped. I really want to try that one too.
We have two now, so
There's two?
The cranberry one, or the gingerbread one.
Probably the cranberry one,
Okay,
yeah, because
yeah,
you
yeah.
just tapped the gingerbread one like
Saturday.
yeah,
So yeah.
yeah. So I know you told me a little bit earlier you're brewing the California Common. What else are you guys working on?
What else are we working on right now? I mean,
anything
kind of
secret,
keeping
or-
up with flagships right now is a lot of it.
Sure.
Keeping up with that stuff. Yeah, I just brewed that common this morning. Then I got ingredients coming for a different hazy. We're gonna try to do some more with the hazy. We've been brewing the kiwi now.
Yeah.
Pretty consistently since you've been here, but just kind of not get rid of kiwi, but just try some different hops and
Yeah.
some different hop products we're doing.
Yeah.
This is a good time, I think, to experiment with stuff, just because you're not totally slammed. So
Sure. Yeah, I like that idea. Yeah, I can't remember what that one hazy was, but remember the one I tried to get when we did that hazy IPA competition?
Yes.
It was like something haze, and it had haze in the name. It was like, you've brewed some
Oh,
stuff
man.
over there that was
Yeah, I
like,
can't remember.
I rival it with some of the best I've had in Colorado. And then it was like kiwi just kept getting better and better every batch. And it reminds me a lot of that one hazy that you had brewed. But yeah, that's what I'm excited to see, is more hazies. Ben is I think going to try doing another one. But it's just tough because he can't put anything on tap.
Yeah, that's definitely a hold up for them, huh?
Yeah.
Because everything's got to go in bottles now, pretty much, right? So
Yeah. And I mean, who's gonna pay? Well, I say that, but the price for the bottle is probably gonna be like $16 for a hazy. So I just feel like the margins aren't really there for the bottled hazies right now.
yeah.
It's like what I'd pay for a stout or a barley wine.
Do hazies hold up pretty good in a?
I mean, are they
in a
bottle
bottle?
conditioning it?
Yeah.
Or is it? I'm not familiar.
Well, just since they're not able to put a whole lot on tap anymore, just being able to brew it and package something that they can get out to people.
So I guess my question is, are they taking it from kegs where it's already carved and then filling the bottles up, or are they
Yeah.
priming it in
Yeah.
like homebrew style?
The first one.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
First
one. You know a lot more about that than I do. It's like I just go over there and I'm like, he's like, put caps on bottles, clean kegs.
Done a couple of collabs
the
with
bitch
Ben,
work.
man. He's always fun to brew with.
Yeah,
What does their bottling setup look like? Just like a counter pressure gun?
yeah. Me and him sitting in a couple chairs and capping them as we go.
Just see if he maybe let us borrow that thing for putting together the competition bottles. Remember we were talking about doing that?
Yeah.
It's a lot of work,
Yeah.
but it's fun.
We're trying to do a couple of beers for Colorado Brewers Cup. Is that what it's called?
Oh. And you have
Yeah.
to like actually send them off.
Yeah, we got to send them off,
Yeah.
and so we were thinking instead of crowdering them, putting them
Yeah.
in bottles to keep them a little
Oh,
fresher,
I'm
a little
sure.
better.
Just
quality.
tell him and he'll hook you guys up for sure.
So I hate to just go buy a setup like that we're only going to use for.
bottling things for
Competition beer.
competitions, man. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
hopefully this time next year we've got a setup for canning. We're looking around at some stuff. There's a lot of stuff for sale right now. So
Where would you put that?
well, I just got rid of that grist case and that mill. That
Oh.
was at the other location.
Yeah.
So we can store it there.
Huh.
Something similar to like what
That'll be cool.
Cerberus uses, that line.
Yeah.
So
That's cool to hear. I was excited to hear, some people weren't. I was excited to hear about the Goat Patch Pikes Peak, because I would love to see more of like Goat Patch's beer canned consistently,
Definitely.
and quality. Because I feel like that's the biggest thing that they suffer is like what you get there and then what you get either on tap at another bar or like in a can can be significantly different. And I always worried about, and you can give me insight on this, I always worried about outsourcing it, when you have another brewery either packaging it for you or brewing it and packaging it for you, even if it's your recipe, it's out of your hands. Of like, how would you feel about that? If I was a brewer, I think I'd feel a little uncomfortable knowing that my product was going out there and that there was some quality issues that you had no control over.
Yeah, and I definitely, I don't know. We've talked about contracting people to can for us, but
I think you gotta
really gotta
know.
be picky, man. Yeah.
And especially a style like, I think you're referring to like when they were doing their hazy, they were having other people do that, and
Yeah.
with that beer in particular, there's, the appearance is almost as much to do with it as the flavor of the beer.
Yeah.
And you get it where it's clearing out.
Well, yeah, you'll get it on tap somewhere like Perry's or something, and it tastes great. I mean, it still tastes fine, but it's looks like a Pilsner, and so I would be curious how does Darren, like how does he feel about knowing that there's beer out there that's probably not to the quality standards that maybe he personally has.
Yeah, we both know that guy's got real high standards.
Yeah.
Right?
It's a
So,
bummer.
like,
It'd be a
Yeah.
bummer, totally, but.
Something that you just deal with. I think Red Lake deals with the same thing. I wanted to ask you guys, again, some personal questions. Like, what's your favorite beer to brew here?
Start that. I'm gonna need a second here. I gotta think through that a little bit.
I like brewing the ESB. That's still my favorite beer.
Okay.
It's my favorite beer to drink. It's my favorite beer to brew. I don't know. I love that beer. It's just a special beer for me. So.
Yeah.
Well, you gotta explain like why it's special. Isn't that like the beer that got you into brewing and all that kind of stuff? Or
Well, English beers and
Why is it your favorite? I guess. Yeah.
English beer is what made me want to get into brewing and made me want to go down the craft beer rabbit hole. I didn't know that there was beers like that tasted like that, So.
Sure.
Just my buddy brought some beer back from England, and
Dogs or something.
there's a dog.
Yeah,
getting
the
killed
dog kind of
outside.
going nuts outside here.
I guess it doesn't. Maybe even not Urban Animal, but like something from batch.
I hate to be that guy, but I think I have to say hazies, man. I like playing with hops. I like seeing what we can do with ours. Especially now that we've been together, it's like fine tuning, getting all these things to where they're exactly what we're looking for every time.
They're fun to brew, and I mean, it's fun to see like the difference. It's not my style to sit around and drink, but I get why people like them.
Yeah.
That's
I mean,
funny.
You drink a couple of them, and it annihilates your stomach a little bit, So
Yeah,
totally
I think
get that.
I've spent this before, and I think his is like quad or barley wine or something like that. Because that's what he likes to just kind of sit around. So I guess that's a common theme: is you like to brew what you like to drink.
Yeah.
And that makes sense.
Yeah.
I'd like to get into it one of these days. I keep saying that, but we'll
You
figure
gotta quit
it
being
out.
so busy, man.
I'm
Doing all these other ventures.
Just doing way too much.
Just from like an actual the work and labor involved too. Like hazies are really labor intensive.
Yeah.
Like there's a
The
lot
water.
lot of hops, and there's a lot you're adding in at different times, doing really long whirlpools.
Yeah.
You know, there's usually a ton of grain.
All that,
a lot of
water,
that you're
water
using.
chemistry.
Yeah. So whereas with
water
the ESB,
chemistry.
it's just like it's just the right amount of grain, just like the right amount of hops. And you get like a nice quick brew day. Smells great in the brew house. Brings back a ton of memories because I've been brewing that since I was brewing in my
Nice and
in my basement.
nostalgic.
Yeah.
I love that. That's funny. Yeah. Yeah. I wonder. I'd love to see a couple other of the beers that you had done come back. So, do you have any plans to bring any other OG batch beers back? Maybe.
I mean, yeah, the Cavanese one that we're luckily bringing back. Pretty excited about having that one back.
That common that I brewed
the
California
common.
common. Yep, yep.
Mhm.
at 4 a.m.
Yeah.
I started.
That's what he
today.
said. Yeah.
Crazy guy.
I had to do a transfer and a brew and a podcast. So
Because you've done some cool stuff. Like I really
Yeah.
like that coconut porter that you had.
That's what I want to bring up to these guys one of these days. I feel like that's
Yeah.
more. You kind of got to push that back towards the a little bit warmer months. That's like, I know it's a porter, but it's a coconut
Year round,
thing.
man.
Yeah. So we kept it on as a flagship over there, but
Yeah.
yeah, we have
you guys
obviously we
didn't
have
have
the Ninja.
flagships. You had flagships.
We had four. We had four of them.
Did end
Yep.
up having a
Yep.
few.
Oh.
We had four.
It was like a red.
Yeah.
Did you
the
have
Rowan
the red? Yeah. The hazy.
The hazy.
Because there was all the shirts.
Common. And yeah, the McAllender's Revenge, the coconut porter.
Yeah.
You guys
Yeah.
have the comment on all the time?
Yep. Yep.
Towards the end at least. Yeah.
I think it was like our last. I got told within like the last, I don't know, whatever that was, man, 6 to 8 months, that it was like, yeah, you need to keep these on all the time.
We need
So,
flagships.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it draws a certain crowd for sure. Like I said, that one time I was sitting at the bar and somebody walked up and they were like, I forget what beer it was. It might have been like the collab that you guys had done with them, and it was some stout or something like that.
Oh boy. Yep.
And
I
the
think I
guy
know exactly
was
what
the
you're
guy
doing.
was upset, yeah, because he was like, "Let me get one of these," and you were like, "Oh, brother, let me break it to you."
Stouty
And the
McStout,
guy was,
man.
yeah, Stouty
Stouty
McStout, and the guy
McStout,
was
dude.
like, "Are you serious?" You're like, "Yeah, that beer's gone forever." The guy was, he was very upset. I remember that.
Well, luckily for him,
How
though,
about
it's not
stout?
gone forever.
Oh,
It
That's
could
one
it might have
okay.
been a different
Oh, yeah.
beer. It was something like it was even your first year of business, and I
No,
thought
maybe
it was
wasn't the stout either.
it was funny because we had talked about it. It was a stout, and I want to say it was like mint or something, but.
Then it was definitely stout.
It probably
Yep.
was, yeah. And the guy was like, "Oh my god, are you serious? Like, I can't get a pint of this." You're just like, "Brother, we don't have flagships here." Like some people, they're like, "What?" You know,
Definitely
like you
blew some people's minds.
like
man.
you
They didn't like
offended
that.
them or something like that. Yeah, but that's that's the difference between the craft beer drinking crowd and just like the average beer drinker that walks in there and is like, "What's the closest thing you have to Bud Light?" Because at that point you're like, "Oh, all right, here we go."
The
You
water
know?
fountain.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. And then you've got the average beer drinker or somebody like me, the craft beer drinker comes in and is like, "Man, you only have 3 hazies on tap? What the
Yeah,
fuck?"
yeah.
So it's
Especially
like you
for
have such a fine line, which is why I think the beer industry is where it's at right now, because like I even have friends that have dialed back on their drinking too. I haven't necessarily. If anything, I've spent a lot more money in the last year, like on beers, like barrel aged beers. But I know people like Andy's a great example. Like used to go every single release they got bottles at WildWorks, and it's like the last few releases just haven't done it. People are just kind of at that point. I think that they can't justify the extra amount that things are costing nowadays.
Yeah.
And I think that everybody's kind of dealing with that. Like we did the lager competition, and unofficially PBR won, which is wild.
Yeah.
That we had like 15 local breweries, and in a blind vote, like everybody unanimously, like by like 40 points, said PBR was the best beer,
Yeah.
which is crazy in my opinion. Like, do I do a stout competition and I put Guinness in it, and it wins by a mile or something, and it just kind of makes you wonder.
Did we put the Mexican lager in that one, or did I can't remember, man.
No,
did that
you
one.
submitted your
Oh, no,
Czech
it was the
Dunkel
Czech.
lager.
We took
You,
third.
you placed pretty good, yeah,
it was
like
third.
third or something like that. But
I think
beers that I
that's
thought
part of the problem, though. I mean, you got PBR up against a dark Czech lager. I mean,
well, beers I thought would place great, like Red Lake Springs Light Lager. It placed like ninth. That's like one of my favorite beers in town. And I didn't even rate it that high in a blind tasting, but I would go buy that beer over, PBR or something like that. So it was kind of eye opening for me to think that I was, a little more preference or preferable toward like a certain beer, and then end up not really like actually voting for that one.
Yeah.
And even some of the breweries that I typically prefer their lagers, I didn't rate super high. Well, I mean, this is why I like doing those. But again, you can go out and buy a 6-pack of PBR for like $7. There's an argument there of like you're gonna try to save money and maybe not buy like the craft lager or something like that.
I can't lie. I always have a 30 rack of PBR in my house. That's my go-to light beer. So
I think like craft beer guys, that's their go-to beers,
Well, I think,
PBR.
yeah, a lot of people in craft beer, they think of macro beer as being somehow inferior, but that's not the case. I mean, they're brewing one beer, and they've gotten really good at it.
Yeah.
And it's really consistent, and you always know what you're going to get. I mean, the competition might have been a little bit different if you were doing a cream ale competition and
Sure.
everybody was brewing a PBR type of beer. I think that the nice thing about craft beer is the diversity, the different styles. Not necessarily that we do it way better than the guys brewing PBR, because the fact of the matter is, they've got $100 million worth of equipment and brewing the same recipe for many, many years.
I was gonna say, what, like the 1800s or something, right? Isn't it like late 1800s
Yeah.
or something like that on the can? I can't remember.
I'd like to think that if we just decided we were going to brew one style, we'd get really, really good at it, brewing that one specific beer.
Sure.
I'd go crazy, man. I couldn't do just one style of beer the whole time.
But
Hazy.
Yeah,
Be
but
turned into outer
drink,
range.
I drink that stuff. I drink, when I'm at home, I'm drinking Modelo.
Brian's bringing us some presents here.
Banquet. I like my banquets.
What
that's
are we
one-
drinking, Brian? What'd you bring?
That's one thing that always bugs me, that people talk shit about like Coors.
Yeah.
Batteries and Levios.
Is this batteries?
That's batteries. That's batteries.
Alrighty. It smells really sour.
It's pretty tart.
What's your favorite beer on tap right now?
Leviosa.
Yeah,
Kolsch.
I think both of us are
That one?
unanimously going to say that. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, which that one is definitely towards the end of the keg there.
That's what
but
it looks like now?
Is
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Is this
is
like-
the bottom of the last cake.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, is this a time of year to brew Kolsch's?
Oh, we're
Or is it
ramping
just-
up our Kolsch right now.
You are, okay.
Oh yeah.
Because I know. So Bend is the same thing, mostly because of like the weather, because he's able to have the colder temperature inside the brewery.
that makes sense for him.
I suppose if you guys have a way to lager, you could do that year round. So I don't know if there's a reason that you brew Kolsch's this time of year.
When we can do them year round because we have the glycol jacketed fermenters.
Yeah.
But we just really like the Kolsch, and it seems that everyone else does too. So we did a double batch, so it was 14 barrels.
Wow.
And I'm going to brew another one right away, just because that beer is moving. And that's, kind of to counteract what we were talking about with the expense raising, the expenses being higher, and the overhead just all around being higher. Kolsch is a beer that's pretty simple. A quality Kolsch isn't necessarily because you're adding a bunch of expensive ingredients. It has more to do with the process. Mm-hmm. And we can brew it for a decent price where we can still make like a decent margin on it. And the plan is to eventually bring in some real Kolsch glasses.
Oh,
Lower.
that would be cool.
They're a little bit small, a little bit smaller pour, so it's like a 12 ounce with head on it.
Yeah.
And we haven't done this yet because we haven't got the glassware, so we're still pouring full pints. But once we get the Kolsch glassware, we're going to do $5 pours of the Kolsch all the time.
That's awesome.
So that's
Try and hit that.
We really want to try to push that. We really like it. We sit around and we drink it, and we're finding that everybody else really likes that type of beer. It's very lager-esque, but it still has like some interesting yeast things going on and a little bit of hop, character going on.
Is it sacrilege for me to ask if you would do like a batch that was fruited, or maybe like fruited keg or something like that? Because I've had quite a few like fruity Kolsch's in the past that I thought like
Yeah.
just fruit blended super well with.
I could see us doing some, you know,
Yeah,
something like
100%.
that.
Yeah.
Especially if it, you know, people really get behind it and really, you know, like it. I think Kolsch is a little bit tougher sell than a Mexican lager.
Some people
or a
just don't know what a
Pilsner.
Kolsch is.
Exactly. So it's,
Yeah.
you gotta kind of like get it into people's
Kind of push them towards
hands.
it.
Yeah, like just
Yeah.
So with every beer they order, just give a sample of it. And everybody that tastes it is like, wow, that's really good.
Yeah. So funny enough, my wife's grandpa was out here. This was a while ago. We were in Manitou at some burger place, and he asked the question, what they only had craft beer on tap, and he was like, what beer is most like Bud Light? And she's like, probably the Kolsch. And so like just that one instance kind of stuck with me. And anytime I have a Kolsch, I've never really thought about it like that or considered it like that, but I've had quite
Thank
a
you,
few
sir.
that are like just basically just like a crispy lager. And so I think that maybe even just the name is a tougher sell for people, like, you know, says Kolsch, and then maybe it needs like a description underneath it says like light German lager or something like that, because some people even don't know what like a Goza is. It's like you don't want
Yeah.
anybody to be not ordering the beer just because they're not familiar with like the German name or
So
something.
that's why it's really important that the people working behind your bar, you know beer and know what they're talking about, or
Sure.
and educating the consumer. I mean, I go into plenty of places and listen to some of the beer tenders talk, and they don't know what they're talking about. You know, we try to make sure that everyone at our place knows what they're talking about. We tell
Do you-
everybody about the beers.
Do you require the Cicerone?
The Cicerone, yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, because I know
The
like
CBS,
Cerberus
yep,
does that, and a few other places are doing that now.
Yeah, I think that's becoming more of a commonplace thing now, especially here in the Springs. It certainly seems like it, but
We just have a really good crew.
We have
We've
great
had
people.
very little
Yeah.
turnover, and everybody really cares about this place.
Yeah,
It
all
was,
your bartenders are very nice, and one thing that you kind of made me think of is like I've been places before where I've asked the bartender, you know, like, what do you like, or have you tried this beer? And they're like, oh, I don't really like beer. And it's like, how do you
Yeah.
work at a brewery?
I've heard that before too.
Your
at
your
breweries.
staff is like, I feel like the opposite, because I always see you guys out drinking beers places, and that's what I like about that. Is like not only do you work at the brewery, but you go out and you support the other local community, and I think that that's huge.
We love it. Yeah, I think that's
Yeah.
it's an important part.
Yeah. Speaking of, and I knew, or you probably could have guessed I was going to ask this. Who is your favorite brewery in Colorado Springs community? And
Oh,
you can't
geez,
say
okay.
you can't say Urban Animal.
this is always a hard question, man.
I
I
know.
have like 5 that I can pick from.
If you had to pick one, for any reason or another, if you had to pick one, you know, who do you think you would pick? You know, where do you find yourself drinking the most?
So I feel like right now, actually, even though there's a lot of doom and gloom talk and breweries going out of business, I don't think there's ever been a better time for the beer drinker as far as like the quality of the beer, you know, just the amount of different styles that are out there, you know, and I think this town's no exception. I mean, obviously there's some that are better than others, you know, and a lot of times I'll like going to a brewery for reasons other than just the beer.
Yeah.
You know, if they have good beer, it's kind of
I was actually going to bring
It's
that
kind
up.
of
I
a
have like
bonus.
different
Yeah, I don't and
categories.
I don't mean for it to be like who do you think is the best, but
Yeah.
like
you
what is
know,
our favorite to just go
just
drink
personal,
at.
yeah.
God,
I
well,
mean,
you said where do you drink at the most? And
I
I'd
think that's a
probably
good
say
way
Peaks
to
and
base
Pines,
it,
because it's
yeah.
on my way home.
Peaks and Pines.
I like those guys a lot, man. Their beer's consistent.
and
Yeah.
I love them too, and they're my favorite people in this industry. But speaking of on your way home and making really good beer, Cerberus. I feel like
Cerberus, yeah.
Troy is doing a killer job over there.
Yeah.
And it's just super convenient.
Yeah.
I think another place that really kind of gets overlooked just because it's been perceived more as a restaurant is Colorado Mountain Brewery. And since Mike Hall took over there and Jason, they're both doing a great job.
I've actually heard a few good things about their beer lately, so I may need to go check them out. I had a friend message me. They got like some s'mores porter or something like that on tap, and he said it was very good.
They're doing really good things
Yeah,
over there.
yeah.
But like I said, they get overlooked because people think of them as a restaurant.
Sure.
I mean,
And
Honey
there was
Badger's been doing this for how long, dude? You know,
Well, he probably has more experience than any other brewery in the entire
in the entire Springs, right?
city. Yeah, I'm sure of that. But yeah, you know, there was a time where the quality of the beer wasn't very good, you know, and it's hard to get past that for some people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I thought about that on the way over here. Who I thought was my favorite, and that was basically the question I asked myself was where do I find myself at the most? Because if I had to say, you know, who I think has the best hazy or who I think has the best X, you know, I'm gonna probably have a different answer. And regardless of the closures this year, my number one has changed a lot in the last 12 months. Like last year it was an easy, I would have probably said Batch, and then after you guys closed, I probably would have said Red Lake. And now I think my answer is Metric, and I was between Metric and Mash. Okay. And going back to what I said earlier, I like that Metric uses more like adjuncts and flavors because I'm a big fan of adjuncts. And so that was a tough one for me too, because it's like I drink out a lot. I even find myself at like Lost Friend a lot because they've got great food trucks and it's near my house. And I live right next to Peaks and Pines too. Ever since like the pizza place closed, you know, I just don't find myself going over there as much. So it's like we do end up going places that we can get food trucks, and it's like Lost Friend and Metric always have great food trucks, and I prefer the beer at Metric, so I just tend to go over there all the time. You know, Chase is nice, the bartenders there are nice, they recognize me when I walk in, and I mean I feel like there's not more I can ask from a brewery.
No, I think they're doing a great job, and I'd be over there more if it wasn't so far out of the way.
Yeah, like if I lived on the west side, it would probably be Fossil, like all day, hands down. It would probably be Fossil.
We were just at Fossil. We hit up Fossil too, but I mean Cerberus is like, it's not a detour at all. It's like right there.
I was very happy. I went there with Ben. We got some food, and I got the Winter Wormer, the Krampusschnan. It was very good.
Oh, we didn't try that one.
I was very happy with that beer. We tried the barrel-aged barley wine too, and I thought that was nice, but you know, just can't drink too much of that all at once. I was like that, and then I split
Still gotta drive home,
I
right?
split the winter beer with Ben. Yeah, I know, and I had like stuff to do that day, so I go out at like noon, and it's like, you know, Ben's like, oh, let's drink some beers, and I'm like, all right, you know, and then by the time we're done, it's like 2 beers in, and then rest of the day is kind of just over at that point.
Right. Right.
Yeah, so I miss having the East Side culture that we had, and now that we're missing, you know, Batch, we're missing FH. Yeah, it really feels like we're kind of lacking on the East Side, and so
who's left over there right now? You got Deuces, Nano,
Peaks, Deuces, and Nano, and then if you want to include the other Jacks that's on Dublin, because that's like kind of near your house.
Yeah, I guess there's technically 2 Jacks right there, right? Because there's the Jacks that's right across from the old Rocky Mountain.
Yeah. And so if you want to include the Jack's Tap Room, and then if you want to be very specific, the Peaks and Pines Tap Room, because it's not a brewery. Be very specific about that. The East Side, is struggling, and I find myself coming either downtown or to the West Side way more often lately, because the quality of breweries, in my opinion, is a little bit better. And if I'm somebody that wants to go out and get like a hazy, now that FH is gone, you know, and Peaks
really
doesn't always have one.
Anymore,
You either got to go downtown or you got to go to the West Side.
But is that technically a hazy, or is that just an IPA? I can't remember.
Where?
The Cranky Antelope at Peaks. Is that?
It depends which batch.
Okay.
Yeah, sometimes they brew it a little bit hazier. The last time they had Always Late, which was one of their hazies.
Oh, okay.
You know, but it's like you can't count on them to always have it, and it's not always like, you know, they don't brew the thicker kind of hoppy beers like what you do, and then the occasional Lucky 7 is sometimes a little bit thicker and hoppy. Yeah, and then you go down, you can hit like Fossil and West Fags and just like thick, hoppy, hazy IPAs. And so I find myself coming to this part of town a lot more often.
I feel like Fossil's been kind of focusing on their IPA and hazy game a lot recently. There's been a lot more on the board the last few times we've gone in. So
I don't know.
Do you never notice, like, does one style of beer or one particular beer sell more or better? Like, do you find yourself having to brew more batches of
Oh, yeah.
IPA than?
Yeah, the
Tell you which one we gotta rip.
propaganda.
Yep.
That's probably always.
That's our number one seller almost every single day.
What?
Propaganda. Yeah.
And then, yeah, the kiwi or really any hazy is probably right behind it usually, right?
Yeah. Down here, the kiwi a lot. South, not
The crowd
quite
is
as
a little
much.
different downtown.
They kind of lean towards more of the tiny fires, the
Oh,
little
really?
more traditional style beers at the South location. Yeah, I feel
Oh,
like
They're a little
the
bit
ultra
more
suede a lot down there.
Yeah, a little bit more into like the malt focused beers.
that's really
down there.
interesting.
Lagers. Although lagers sell pretty good down here too.
Yeah.
The street taco the Mexican lager we do sells pretty good at both spots.
But you sell more IPAs downtown.
100%. Yeah, like not even close. Yeah.
That's really weird.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we burn through the Ninja down here.
The Ninja
Very
sells
quickly.
the hazy sells way better downtown.
Do you think it has anything to do with maybe some of the East crowd? Like, I'm sure there's not like crowds of people that were batch fans, but like, do you think maybe some of the people are coming to the downtown location now instead of 115, just because it's a little bit closer? Because for me, that's how
I think that's
I
happening.
think about it.
A little bit of that is happening. I think, we get a lot more just downtown foot traffic, and I think it tends to be sort of like a
Younger crowd is what I was going to say.
a younger crowd.
People are gonna drink either like a hazy or a lager or
Yeah, they tend
one
to
of
be
your
a
fruity
little bit more
beers.
adventurous too. Even like some of the
Yeah.
crazier beers
Huh.
are, they're more into that down here.
I could see maybe your audience down there, since you've been down there a little longer. Maybe people are going in and they're more used to the beer, whereas here you could probably get a lot of like people that have never been here before.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of tourism too. A lot of people from out of town that are stopping through. So.
We're still, even though it's been a couple years now, right, for that other spot.
Yeah.
And there's some weeks where our biggest selling product is flights. There are still people that are
Yeah.
finding out that we're there. So we're trying our best to get the word out. But
Wait, what do you get asked the most at a beer fest?
you get like, how long have you been here, or where you located,
Where are
like
you
things
located?
like that.
Man, every
yeah.
single time.
Where are you located?
Yeah, where are you guys located?
At local beer fests?
Yeah, oh yeah, all the time.
Really?
Yeah, that's the big problem. Is
I
really,
didn't even know you existed. Is their next response?
We just started
every single
doing like
time.
some radio promo stuff.
It makes me wonder. I had that event over at FH. People said the same thing to me, and they were around for like 9 years. And people were like, "I've never heard of this place. I didn't know it was here."
They were even in that location for 6 years, right?
Yeah.
Something like that. So
I just wonder how does that happen? Like maybe they're not necessarily into craft beer, so they're not following it. But I feel like that's strange for somebody to say they've never heard of you or they didn't know you were there. I don't know.
I think
It
it's
happens
I
all
think
the
it's a
time.
tough sell. I think the business model that worked so well in 2014 or whenever I opened up Ironbird, that business model of a place where you go drink beer and there's sometimes a food truck kind of thing. I think it's a big ask now. I think it's a lot easier to get noticed and recognized and have people know you exist if you're a brewery that has a restaurant, kind of that combination.
Mm-hmm.
I just think, I don't know if it was, the financial climate was better back then, where people would go out to dinner and go to a separate place to drink beer, or I just think now people are kind of like, oh, we need to find a place where we can go have dinner, and then of course we'll order a beer because we're having
Everything all
dinner.
in one.
yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's a lot more on people's radar than just this sort of microbrew sort of model that we, still 10 years,
Sure.
10 years old for me, but back then it was just a different crowd.
Yeah. Well, we're like that. My wife and I will pick a place to go out that has a good food truck or something like that. I don't expect if I go to Bubba's or anything like that they're gonna have good beer on
Right.
tap.
Yeah,
So,
you're drinking Sam Adams or
yeah,
whatever.
I'm gonna pick a brewery that either has like a good food truck or something. So I think that's huge. Like Red Lake just won some award or something for like the 4 little things that they have out in the back, like it was like best brewery food option. It was like something weird like that, and I can see that. Like
I mean, when you have 4 options,
they
all
do
the
it.
time.
It's
Yeah,
important.
they
I
do
think
it
that
very well,
100%.
and to the point that it's like you go over there, super busy. The food's incredibly expensive too. Like you can't get anything for under $20, and it's packed.
Jeez, that's crazy.
Yeah.
You know, they're suffering the same things that we are. I mean, it used to be food trucks were a place where you could get like good food for like a little bit cheaper than going to a restaurant. But
Yeah.
Now we were talking about this in Denver the other day. That food truck food is
It's more
it's way more expensive. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been to food truck and had just like a frozen burger at Fry's was like $20 before. You know,
Yep.
it just is like, oh, this is the only food here, so here you fucking go if you're hungry.
I think Denver must be even worse because we went to the barbecue joint that's right next to our mutual friend.
Oh, that place is great.
It's
Oh,
great.
it's so
but
Yeah.
you get like we got like a pulled pork sandwich and that was it. Like no sides or anything. And I want to say it was like 17
It was 17 bucks after
Yeah.
tip. Yeah.
for
For one sandwich, man, 17 bucks.
Yeah.
What-
Denver-
now, was it good? Yeah,
it was
110%.
delicious. Yeah.
But
I do have some complaints with not just the Denver breweries, but really more of like what the food costs up there. And I hate to say it, but if you ever go to New Image, the food is astronomical. Like a burger's like $18, like, and you don't get fries or anything with it. Like it's getting to the point
I
when
didn't even know New Image sold food, so
Yeah.
okay, that's news
yeah,
to me.
both
Oh.
at both locations they sell food, and then you get a beer on tap there, and like their Coriolis Effect, their flagship hazy is like $9 for a 12 ounce, and you can get it for a 6-pack to go for like $4 a can. I have a huge gripe with that because I don't understand, and I wonder where the markup's coming from. I was like, I get that you got to pay your staff, but it seemed like the prices are just kind of getting out of control. Even some Springs places I've seen like charging $9 for a pint of just like a regular beer. Like I get if it's a imperial or barrel aged or something like that, but I think some of the prices are getting out of hand too. And that's deterring
I
people.
could be wrong about this, but like just thinking about it now, their distribution might just be a break-even kind of scenario, and they're doing
True.
it mostly just for marketing. And really, what they need to be selling it for is that $9 or whatever. I could be wrong on that because if they could run a successful business selling that hazy for $5 a pint, why not do that?
Why wouldn't you do
What-
it? Yeah.
And then you just be
There-
packed all the time.
There's got to be a reason for it. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, we could lower our prices and probably get a lot more people through the door. But at the end of the day, when you're figuring out the numbers, if you can't pay the rent,
Yeah.
like we were talking about, we're moving a lot of product right now. I mean, there still is interest in craft beer. I think what's happening to a lot of places is they're just not making the profits they once were. There's probably a lot of places that are way down. I think we're probably flat compared to last year. We're 4 months into this location, but I think probably down south we're probably about the same as we were last year. So there's not that double-digit growth that there once was.
Do you remember what you guys were selling pints for at like Ironbird?
I mean, I think when we first opened it, $5 was pretty much the standard.
Really?
That was 2014, right?
14,
Yeah.
15.
It's 10 years ago. It's $5. That sounds
Yeah,
about
so
right.
$5, and then
It's kinda what I remember when I
Well, and then
started
even back then,
drinking
people
beer.
were, craft beer was still sort of like pricey. Getting a $5 pint.
Yeah, when you can go get a Coors for like $3 at that point, right? Yeah. Back then,
Somebody made a post about it was like PBR or something like that, like an ad from back in the day, and like macro beer the inflation of macro beer has been a lot less, I think, than the craft beer industry because of them being so big and what they pay for the ingredients, and they own everything, and then what you guys deal with sourcing and labor costs and all of that. And I thought that was pretty interesting. I think it was PBR or something like that was the example, like the amount that it had gone up like per can or per ounce or something like that was like not very significant. It was a small amount compared to craft beer these days.
No, the economies of scale, definitely. I think it makes a big difference when you have a gigantic silo, or maybe you even have the farm that grain is grown
Yeah,
on.
like
or
Budweiser owns all of their farms, right?
Yeah, I mean, things are. There's going to be some things that change, like the fuel and the transportation costs, and things like that are going to change. Wages, obviously, utilities. Like we've got utilities going up here too. But over, when you're talking 1 billion pints, versus, the numbers that we're doing.
You guys, do probably have one of the bigger brew setups in town. When you add up what's down there and then what's here, you guys have the capacity to brew quite a bit of beer.
Yeah, we move a lot of product. It's just, we're talking about the $5 pint back in 2014, and your net on that $5 pint back then was higher than the $8 pint now in 24.
Crazy. That's crazy.
You're just making less money, even though you're charging that much more.
Well, I don't want to keep you guys all day. We're getting close to that point. So the last thing that I kind of wanted to ask is, do you have any big plans of for this year? Any special brews? Did you have an anniversary coming up, or did that already just happen?
Yeah,
we just had that in
happened
September.
a few months ago.
We opened
September,
almost basically for the grand opening and
oh, that's right, yeah.
Anniversary.
And that was the
So
BAL Kikui and everything.
Yep.
Yeah. What's new for 2025?
Well, now that we're literally brewing in the same place, speaking of Stouty McStout, that'll be on
Stouty.
Come
We do that for
St. Patrick's Day. And if
I
you
love
haven't
that
done
beer.
that with a Irish car bomb, I highly recommend it. It is
I'll
the
try it.
best beer for an
It
Irish
was one
car
of my
bomb.
favorite beers that you guys ever did.
Yeah.
Just kind of making sure that the Kolsch is available at all times. That'll be our new year, with the glassware, and I've got like some cool branding and stuff that kind of goes along with that beer, because we just feel like people are really gonna like it. People really do like it, but maybe some smaller distribution stuff going on. Hopefully canning at some point.
Do you think the
next
canning
year.
is likely for next year, or?
I hope so. I feel like that's kind of like the next logical step for us if we're gonna keep growing. That's a spot where distribution is definitely an area where we could grow, and we got to make sure the numbers work out. And that's kind of the reason for the Kolsch too, is because we could actually still make some profit. It's gonna be skinny once everybody gets paid, but
I was wondering, is there more motivation to send to liquor stores rather than just sell it here? Because in my opinion, if I could buy a 6-pack of 12-ounce cans over a crowler, I'll probably do that. Or even if it's a 4-pack of 16-ounce cans over a crowler, I feel like it's a little bit more cost efficient usually to do that. So I wonder if maybe until you get to that bigger point that you guys are able to you guys are able to
John's at the door.
maybe
Ryan,
just
Ryan.
package
John's
stuff in smaller quantities.
Yeah.
I don't really know how much beer you have to necessarily allocate to the canning side of things.
Yeah,
So that's what I'm curious about, is do you have the ability to do that and just send it all out?
We have the ability to do that in kind of like small spurts, because it does take up a lot of space, and first and foremost we have to take care of the tap room. We have to take care of our customers that are coming in here. Distribution for us is more of a you hope to break even on it, but really what you're trying to do is just get that brand recognition.
Get it out there.
And I think that's, we were talking about Go Patch earlier. I think that's something they did really, really well.
Yeah, just get the beer out to a ton of bars, and then be like one of the only IPAs on tap.
Yeah, it's almost...
Yeah.
Go to any bar in town, dude, and there's a Go Patch Hazy on there. I don't think you can probably name a bar right now, even the small bars.
And we don't have, we don't have the capacity, and especially now we don't have the capacity to compete with what they're doing. But we'd like to do that, on whatever scale we're able to, just to let people, know we're here, what we got going on, and we've got a good product. And I guess we'll just kind of see what happens in 25. We'll just keep doing what we do until somebody tells us we got to stop.
Yeah. No, and it makes sense. Just do it until it works.
Yeah.
You know, package a few cases of beer, sell it all, then you double it the next time. And 'cause I know Local Relic's attempting to kind of do that same thing where the beer needs to go somewhere since it's not going to the tap room. And they're trying to kind of figure out the same deal. You guys are in a different situation where you're selling plenty of beer here. It's just like you said, kind of that next step, and I love to see that. I'd really love to see more Springs breweries offering, you know, packaged beer, like again, like Fossil. I'd love to see them, you know, be able to can that hazy. Like I'd buy it, you know, even if it was $16 for a 6-pack. Like I'd still get it, you know. So I really like to see that evolution. I think that the Springs is slowly getting to that point. I hate to say that, like we're getting to Denver standards, but I think that we are kind of getting to that recognition point where there are actually a good handful of breweries here in town now that people will seek out. And I see people posting in like Colorado Likes Top Craft Beer, some of the more statewide groups, and they're like, you know, I'm going to Colorado Springs and I want to get a beer, and like I see people tagging you guys and Red Lake and Cerberus, and like I feel like there are actually pretty good. There is good recognition for some of the breweries here, and I just, you know, I wonder that others are just maybe not doing as much as they could be. Like you guys have a pretty good social media presence. I think that's what some of the other breweries lacked.
Yeah.
That did, you know, end up closing this year, and so I think that that's huge for you guys to be able to draw a crowd actually from Denver that's already so saturated and be able to bring people down here who are actually, you know, seeking out your beer. I think that's huge because there's not that many. Like Peaks and Pines, they've been around forever. Their beer's phenomenal. I don't ever see anybody, you know, recommend them on Facebook, and it sucks.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just I think a matter of how active they are. You know, pitching themselves, and then just being part of the community, you know, as a whole. Because if you're not on social media nowadays, it's just kind of tough to stay up with it.
I think that's the stigma that, like, especially like what we're trying to break is, you know, that we're Denver's little brother, right? And I think the Springs beer scene has always been seen as the little brother to Denver.
Mm-hmm.
But like you said, I think there are a lot of guys here in town that push that limit now. I think we are definitely on par with some of those Denver breweries, and hopefully soon a lot of people will start seeing that, and you know, the Springs will become more of a beer destination like some of these other places are now.
I'd love to see you guys release some cool, unique stuff, more barrel-aged stouts. I mean, that's what I'm into, but
I don't know if we're quite the guys to look for barrel-aged stouts, but we'll see. We can make them.
You've done some great stuff, and the first batch that you guys did was great. Really, you know, I'd love to be able to see you doing stuff that's, like you said, just continuing to draw the crowd. You know, just continuing to do kind of stuff that's not necessarily weird, but that's a little bit different. You know, that just blends flavors together, and then you don't have somebody come out and try it, say, I'm not going to like this, and then they're like, wow, this is really good. Like, you guys are the number one brewery right now that kind of fits that model, in my opinion. So as long as keep doing that,
We're constantly
brewing the same beer.
Yeah, we're constantly trying to figure out what works and what people want. I mean,
The wheels are always
if we do something and it sells really well and people are crazy about it, we're going to keep doing it. I mean, the things that we stopped doing, it's because we tried it and people weren't into it.
Speaking of innovative things, we got to record this tasting before you get off of here. So we got to try this pickle beer.
Let's do the pickle beer, and then we'll wrap it up since we're at that point.
What do you think of that batteries, man?
I like it a lot. You said tart, but I would say it's sour. It's a lot tartar.
Well, there's 90
than I
pounds of
expected.
cranberry in there.
90, wow.
So it was tart, but then once I put those cranberries in there, it got really tart. And so there's cranberries, and there's orange, and there's cinnamon, and there's
nutmeg.
a little bit of nutmeg in there.
And that's
The idea was cranberry sauce, homemade cranberry sauce.
all of that is like exactly what I like, right up my alley. And the spice was good. I had this argument with Ben, argument, because Ben's not a huge spice guy. Here we go.
I left the pickle out.
All right.
Normally it's served with pickle, so.
I won't eat the pickle. But the Krampus not over at Cerberus, it's so good because there's so much cinnamon. It's so cinnamon heavy, and I love it. And Ben was like, this is way too much cinnamon. And I just got this barley wine from a brewery out in Oregon, and it's got cinnamon and nutmeg in it. It's barrel aged, and it didn't have a great rating on Untappd, and so I was like, I wonder if it's because spice can be so divisive for people who I like a lot. And maybe you like spice, but you just don't like overwhelming spice, you know?
Yeah, it can be polarizing for sure.
That was something we ran into with our cinnamon girl stout here. Is I thought it was overly cinnamon. He said, no, we need to add more because the general public is gonna be like, no,
yeah,
no.
and that's not my personal preference. My personal preference is not for it to be overspiced and
Right.
like for the flavors to be over the top. I mean, I come from a time when I was coming up in craft beer where if it was a fruited beer, you had to really search to kind of get like the fruit element to it.
Yeah.
And I still want deep down, I want the beer to taste like beer, but I've just learned over the years, like if you're gonna call a beer a gingerbread coffee blonde like we have, or a cranberry tart, it better taste like it.
It better taste like it.
If people are searching for
like
those
that.
flavors, they're not happy.
Yeah. Well, I think coconut's one too. Again.
Yeah, coconut is definitely a tough one.
Suntan lotion.
Yeah, you get a lot of banana
Yeah.
boat. Is that what it's called? The sunscreen.
Yeah. All right. So
All right,
the smell is better than I expected. It doesn't really smell super pickly. It actually has that cream ale essence to it. So
There still is some beer flavor to it.
So I wouldn't order this, but it's a lot better than I expected. And I
There we
think
go.
what I don't like is some of these have that sourness.
Yeah,
I can't do the sour
The
pickle.
pH is lower. This is definitely lower than your typical beer, but we tried to kind of find that happy medium with it, where it wasn't
Oh boy.
vinegar. But
we tried a couple of the pickle sours, and we kind of came to the conclusion that no, this is not going to be a sour.
they were
We're
super
gonna
sour.
do it.
We had that one from Distill,
Yeah.
and it was one of the most sour beers I've ever had in my life.
And
The
tastes like pickles.
sour punch, pickle punch, or
Yeah,
something like
that's
that.
the one,
And
yeah.
that's one of Jazz's favorite beers.
Oh
yeah.
wow. Okay. Yeah, dude.
Drinks it with a pickle. Yeah.
And
But she would like that.
And I was kind of going that direction. Funny enough, he was kind of the one that pulled me back on that.
I said let's
Which normally he's the one that wants to go overboard, but
It is-
let's cream ale this. And
It's a pickle beer for people who don't really like pickles.
hey,
I'm
I'll
not-
take that actually.
I'm
I'll
not
take that.
I'm not gonna finish it, but normally anything pickles makes me want to gag, and it's actually fairly drinkable.
Okay.
you can find
So-
a regular beer, essence of beer.
There-
in
For
There's a
sure.
taste of
No,
beer.
yeah, it's cream ale-y, but it finishes almost like a lager. Like I get like some of that corn flakiness, and so it offsets the pickle a little bit. It's still very pickly, but
The next batch is going to be even more pickly, just so everyone knows.
I'll tell my wife to come try it because it's right up her alley. They say you can.
Oh boy.
So she
All
likes
right.
that sour.
You can
the
have a
sour
sip of
pickle
that.
one from Distill. She likes that beer.
Yeah, and pickle made from Martin House.
Oh yeah. So we
that's
use
the
those
OG
pickles.
the
in
OG.
ours.
Yeah.
Is the best made pickles. So,
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, she likes all of those. She got the mix pack that they did where it was like orange and grape and strawberry pickle sour, and they were all horrible. It was like,
That-
just stick with just
Grape
pickle.
and pickle mixed together.
Yeah,
Like that.
Yeah.
dude. Yeah. He said like grape orange.
It was a mix pack. It was pineapple, grape, orange, and strawberry.
All
and
in
it
the
was
pickle beer.
yeah, it was the sour. It was the pickle made,
Oh,
but with
no.
like the fruit flavoring.
I've
in it.
never had that
They were
before.
horrible.
I don't know if I could do that.
Yeah, she said they were awful.
You can just get that locally though. That pickle beer.
Yeah, like Veterans and I think Freedom, like on our end of town,
They have
have
just like
it.
the straightforward one.
Yeah, pickle
Okay,
or yeah,
okay.
Best Made, and then they have it sometimes at like Coltrane.
I'll have to go try.
Depends what liquor store you're at. The more crafty places will get it.
Because that was part of the problem with brewing this one was I just didn't really have a good reference, and then my reference ended up being that sour one, and I'm like, man, is this what people want?
Give me
That's
the
tough.
heebie-jeebies, man.
That is tough.
So
Well, I appreciate your time today, guys. We actually even went a little over what I was hoping for, so I don't know if the camera's still recording, but we'll find out. But I appreciate you guys hanging out and giving us a little bit of your story and talking about the beer. And yeah, I'd love to see what you guys end up doing this next year. Funny enough, I was gonna say if I came here a little bit more often, you guys probably would be my number one, just because you were my number one. And I've been a huge fan of your IPAs since you guys opened up. So
Thanks.
I just got to get over here more often.
Come on down, man. You
Yeah.
know where to find us.
Cool. Well, if you guys haven't been here, check them out. They're downtown and they're down off 115 with both locations. I mean, there's no excuse to not come.
That's
There
right.
you go.
All right.
Come drink
Well, I
some beer,
appreciate
guys.
you guys.